Welcome back to another Tiermaker. We haven't done one in a while. This one was suggested by viewer Tokoboy. We started talking about video game sequels, and I had said how Assassin's Creed 1 was a good proof of concept and had some cool ideas in it, but didn't quite gel. I liked it. I beat the game, right? Full confession. But then I played Assassin's Creed 2, and it was such a leap forward in graphics, in gameplay, in character, level design, story. It was just so much better than the first game. And I thought, that has me thinking, how many other games have been good, but then the sequel's been even better? So here's what we're going to do. Toko made this while I was streaming Assassin's Creed Mirage tonight. It is a list of video game sequels. So here's the thing. I'm going to be ranking them based on if I think they're better than the original. And I'm already looking at this list and I'm a little confused. Do I do it based on comparing them to the original, or just ranking them in terms of S to F? I think we're just going to rank them as they are, as games. But we'll talk about if they were generational leaps above the first. So we'll talk about it. But I want the rankings to just be, how are they in terms of actual video games? So that's what we're going to do. Because they're sequels. They're not directly part 2. Some of these are not just immediately the second game in the franchise. Some of them are a little later. So, and I'll explain that when we get into this. All right. Skelly going off in the chat with the emotes. Love it. Okay. Assassin's Creed 2. It's an S tier for me. And honestly, Assassin's Creed 2 is... It's so good that you can go back and play it right now and it feels a little dated, but the Assassin's Creed franchise would not have gotten where they are, or where they were, or where they have been, to their pinnacle, without the steps forward that they made with the second game. And then Brotherhood, which is still my favorite in the franchise, second only maybe to Black Flag. 3 had some issues, for sure. I think the setting just didn't do it any favors, and I think the story wasn't really that compelling. Interesting setting. The lead character, just, he should have been a home run, and it really wasn't. And you're following Ezio, who was just so full of style, and just a good character, up and down. So, and you got 3 games with Ezio. So, having said that, Assassin's Creed 2 is still one of the best. The setting of the Renaissance in Italy is fantastic. And they gave you a lot to do in that game that didn't get repetitive. So that, to me, this is one of the best in the series. It's up there with Black Flag and Brotherhood as being the 3 best in the series. Once they got into bigger scale, like Origins and Valhalla, and before that was Odyssey. They're all good games. I haven't played Origins, the only one I haven't played. They're all good games, though. But they kind of lost track of what Assassin's Creed was, which is what Mirage is trying to do, is to pull you back into more of a stealth-type game. And I love what they did with Assassin's Creed 2. It is an S tier for me. All right, I'm not going to spend that much time talking about the rest of these, except Half-Life 2, which is S tier on top of S tier. It is a game that I revisit multiple times. I have revisited multiple times. I will probably stream it all the way through at some point. It's kind of one of those things where I'm keeping it as a we'll play it someday when I don't have a bunch of other stuff to play. And right now it's the fall, it's holiday time, we are swamped with content, right? Half-Life 2 for me is one of the best video games ever made, and not just because I kind of look like Gordon Freeman. It's Half-Life 1 was a great game. Half-Life 2 is pretty much perfect. And it deserves to be S tier. Chat, agree 100% on Assassin's Creed. That the mini sequels are the ones I played all the way through. The mini sequels? You never played Black Flag all the way through? It's worth it. Half-Life 3 confirmed when? Never. Doom 2. This is going to be blasphemy for some folks. Doom 2 is a great game. For me, it's A tier. Doom 1 and Doom 2 are masterful. But is it really S tier? Right now I'm putting it as a high A. It might sneak its way up into S as we do more of this. Halo 2. Halo 2 is also an A. But I think Halo 1 was so great. It added online multiplayer, which was fantastic. And the campaign's not as good. Right? The campaign in Halo 1 has some like the library level go on way too long. Probably shouldn't have even been in the game. But Halo 2 had a pretty good campaign, and then that ending was like, what drugs were they on? So I don't think it's a better game. It's still a damn good game. And the multiplayer, oh, how many people got on Xbox Live because of that game? Millions. Now, I am going to play around with the rankings here as we do this. I might move some up and down a bit more. And I want to zoom in a bit, too, now that we have almost every game off the bottom level. Dead Space 2. This is C tier at best for me. And then I'll put Super Mario up here as well as an A. That way we've got the bottom level knocked out. Super Mario 2, it's not as good as the original. It's very different. But man, they tried some different things in it. And some things that helped inspire what came in Super Mario 3, which is the best of the three, right? I can still sit down and play Super Mario 2 and have a blast with it, though. And I think it deserves to be an A. Dead Space 2, for me, it turned it into more of an action game and less of a horror game. The first one was sci-fi horror shooter. The second one, there was jump scares, but it felt cheaper. Also, they gave you a lot of enemies to shoot in a lot of different times, and not a lot of ammo to deal with them. And it drove me crazy. I did not finish Dead Space 2. I have finished Dead Space 1 twice, and I was going to do a stream of the game, but of the remaster, but the game's not running on my computer for some reason. I'm having some issues with it, so maybe if I get a new rig soon, we'll come back and stream that. Dead Space 2 for me is not as good as the first, and as a game, it's okay. If I was IGN, it probably would have been a 7.5, which would be a B, I guess. But no, for me, it's like a C tier. Dead Space 2 didn't really improve over the first. That's my point. More action, but that doesn't make it a better thing. You want to play shooters, you have shooters for days. Dead Space 2, also the story in Dead Space 1 was really creepy, and Dead Space 2 just kind of gives you more of the same. And don't get me started on Dead Space 3. Alright, Dead Space 3 and Fear 3 were in that time where, hey, everything has to have a co-op component. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. What are you doing? Alright, Arkham City. Oh my god, this is tough because Arkham Asylum is an awesome game. Awesome. Arkham City is a bigger game, and it's probably even a better game. Arkham Knight is Arkham City, but better. So I have to put it B tier. B as in Batman. But I know I'm being a little harsh on it. I think as the middle child, you don't get Arkham Knight without Arkham City. Arkham City did things better than Arkham Asylum. But man, Arkham Asylum was such an incredible little story in that small area. And the stealth in that game was unbelievable. The combat in Arkham City changed, it flipped the script. You can't play Spider-Man on PS5 right now and not feel like you're playing the same combat in Arkham Asylum. So for me, Arkham City was a step forward in terms of more open world feeling. But the combat didn't do too much different. Arkham Knight is the better game of all of those. I would even argue Arkham Knight was the best of the three. Even though the Batmobile tank stuff was kind of dumb. So it's a B, but it's probably going to end up an A. I'll be honest. Arkham City is a really good game. Battlefield 2. It's so hard to rate Battlefield 2 because it's so long ago. But Battlefield 2 was honestly the first big scale shooter that I ever played. It hasn't aged well. If you were to try to play it now, was it a leap over the first game? Yeah. But Battlefield 2 came at a time when there was already 1942. When did 2142 come out? I forget. Battlefield 2 is a really good game. In terms of, could I pick it up and play it right now? No. But Battlefield 2 was my first Battlefield game. It was on the original Xbox. And I didn't have a gaming computer then, but I played that game. There was an online playable map that was included in Xbox Magazine. I played that thing until they shut the servers down when the game came out. It just felt unbelievable. But I don't think it's aged all that well. I couldn't go and pick that up and play it right now. BF2, horrible. What are you talking about, Krog? What are you talking about? Are you nuts? Alright, Bioshock 2. Oh, you uninstalled it in your PC, you were disappointed in it after 1. Well, Battlefield 1, yeah. But I'm coming at it from a console gamer. And for that game to drop on console and to do what you could do in that, for me, it meant a lot. It was a disaster at launch. A lot of the Battlefield games are disasters at launch. Sorry, was that out loud? Okay, Bioshock 2. This is a C, but it's a high C. I actually think it's higher than Dead Space. In fact, that has me thinking Dead Space might be lower. Bioshock 2, very good game. No reason to exist. The Minerva's Den DLC is awesome. And if more of that game felt like Minerva's Den, I think it would have been higher on my list. Bioshock 1's pretty much a masterpiece. And it's hard to follow that with Bioshock 2. It felt more like the studio wanted more money, and so they made it. I'm not saying it's a bad game. It's a very good game. But it's a C tier at best for me. On this list, Borderlands 2. It's kind of more of the same. Borderlands 1 was great. Borderlands 2, also great. A little bit better online experience. Story was a little bit better, more laughs. I'm putting it as a B tier. I'm removing all of my former Sega Gearbox experience out of this equation, and I'm putting it as a B. Call of Duty 2. This is the game that sold me on the Xbox 360. It was awesome, and it was a huge leap over the first Call of Duty. More of the same. I like what they did with Infinite. Oh, you're talking about Bioshock 2. Bioshock Infinite was awesome. Bioshock Infinite was it messed with your mind big time, and you didn't realize it until towards the end. I love Bioshock Infinite. That is a damn good game. I would say it's almost as good as the first. It's a bit too long. The first game felt a tiny bit long towards the end. There's something major that happens, and then the last hour and a half or so is a little long. Bioshock Infinite has a couple of sections where you're like, what is happening? And it goes on a little longer than it should, but man, Bioshock Infinite's awesome. Call of Duty 2 sold me on Xbox 360, and it was a huge leap over the first game. Playing it on Veteran was a pain in the ass, as a lot of the Call of Duty games are. For me, it's a high A. I can't go too much higher, though. God of War 2. God of War 2 is better than God of War. Better combat. Story, comparably good. And the scale in that game is even bigger. And the fact that those games were on PS2 and accomplished what they did, it is, for me, the first two God of War games are both S tier. And my memories of playing them are so good. God of War 2 was better in the fact that there was no spinning columns of Hades. There was no Hades level at all. S tier. Low S tier. But man, I could go back and play God of War 2 right now and just have a blast. Hitman 2. So this is one where I want to say, technically Hitman 2 Silent Assassin is the second game. But this is a sequel to Hitman of this new version of the World of Assassination. It's tough because Hitman 2 was really good, but all three of them really blend together. So it's kind of hard for me to rate this one. I think Hitman 3 had some of the best maps, but also had kind of a weak ending. It was trying to tie everything together, and 2 had some great levels in it. I think it was a better game than the first one. I love these Hitman games. I'm so happy that they've made this comeback because Blood Money was awesome for its time. And then it just sat there as a franchise and no one touched it. IO came back to it. Well, to be fair, they did put out that one game that was basically just an action game. And it was dog poop. And they walked away from the franchise for like a decade. Which one am I thinking of? Absolution. Hitman Absolution. Not a good game. It's an okay action game. It is not a good Hitman game. And they came back to the franchise and said, we want to make it a Hitman game. And boy, did they. Those 3 games are fantastic. Very stealth. Total sandbox. Awesome. I'm going to put it in the Bs. I don't think it belongs any higher than any of these other games. In fact, it probably needs to be a low B on this list. But it's still a really, really great game. First BioShock was just amazing. It totally was. Zelda 2 Adventure of Link. I'm sorry. It was a really good attempt. And there are people who are going to swear by this and defend it. I'm not a Zelda fanboy. But there are some Zelda games that are fantastic. And the original Legend of Zelda is a balls to the wall masterpiece, front to back, up and down. Replaying the game after you beat it and having everything moved around gave it even more replay value. This one, with the top-down view and the map, and then the combat felt really weird and floaty, and I just didn't really enjoy the Adventures of Link. I think for an attempt at a sequel, it was really gutsy for them, almost like Super Mario 2, to be so different from the one that did it. But we're talking about the 80s, where companies took risks. Nintendo took risks. And I think it paid off really well with Mario Brothers 2. I don't think it worked for Adventures of Link. I know it's a hot take. I haven't even looked at chat. I see chats. Y'all are bumping your gums. I'm sure you're telling me how horrible of a person I am. Me personally, I don't hold Adventures of Link in a very high regard. Not to say it's a terrible game. But on this list, as far as sequels go, I think it belongs further down the list. Skelly. Honestly, Super Mario 2A is more controversial than Zelda 2 being D? Really? Wow. Okay. Okay. You think Mario 2 should be lower? Is Tears of the Kingdom technically a sequel? It is. Alright. Mass Effect 2. I love the story in Mass Effect 1. It's a little slow to get to the end, but it is really good. The combat's iffy. The Mako, eh. Mass Effect 2 has a story that's almost as good. Not as world building. And basically, we're getting the band back together is the whole point of it, right? I'm building a super team. It's been done before. But in video games, tell me a time when it hasn't been done as well as that. Or tell me a time when it has been done better than that. I don't think you can. Maybe it's in like a JRPG or something that I haven't played. Mass Effect 2 is fantastic. Scanning planets, it gets a little old, but it's still better than driving a Mako around an empty planet. The side missions, the side characters. Doing the missions for each of the characters. I remember bits and pieces of Thane's story, of Garrus's story, of who's the bald girl, the orphanage with all the violence when she was growing up. Her side mission, oh my god, help me with her name. Phenomenal. Great storytelling, way improved combat. I don't know how. It's the best of the 3, by the way. Mass Effect 2 is better than 1, and it's better than 3. 3 has its moments. 2 is the best in the series. Jack. I knew it was a guy's like a male name. I remember so many people hating SM2. Really? Yeah, because it wasn't what people expected. But I loved the variety in the gameplay with the different characters of Toad and Princess. The combat in Mass Effect 2 is so much better. Skelly says, yes, it is. The characters are so great. Yeah, the characters in that are iconic. There's a reason why a lot of them came back for part 3. All right, Metal Gear Solid. This is a sequel. There's 2 before it on NES. It's such a leap from NES to PlayStation. You couldn't really tell much of a story on the NES. Metal Gear Solid had the best story of any video game I've ever played up until that point. It was like you were playing an RPG in an action game. And it put Hideo Kojima on the map. It put all those characters on the map. I managed a video store. I was graduating college when that game came out. And I was managing a video department at a company called Hastings. And we had a board where we could write down our favorite movie of the week. I put Metal Gear Solid. And I had a couple of customers be like, is that a movie? I'm like, it's a video game. It is the most cinematic video game I've ever played. Looking at it now, it's a little rough, right? The graphics and the faces and stuff, it's kind of like El Paso Elsewhere. But I'll be damned if it doesn't have some of the best voice acting for its time. And even now, it is a masterclass all the way up until the ending, which the ending battle's a little iffy. But getting there is the enjoyment of that game. And Metal Gear Solid is an S-tier game. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying. Or they're trying to be Stephen A. Smith with a lava take. I gave Courtney Taylor Jack's VA her Blue Sky. Oh, for real? Dude, that's awesome. Remember Contra? Of course. Contra was awesome. Contra on the Super NES was a really good sequel. Is it out, Metal Gear Solid? What are you talking about? This one I'm talking about here is a PS1 in 1998. I know they've done the remastered thing that was on Steam. Reviews are not good. Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 is way better than Mega Man 1. Mega Man 2 is a really good game, but it's a low A for me because I suck at it. But I can't rate it any lower than that. It's fantastic. Portal 2 is S tier. Here's the thing. These S tier games are going to get shuffled around a bit as I'm doing the ranking at the top. Portal 2 is 6 hours of video gaming perfection and storytelling perfection. There, I said it. There's your hot take. Portal 2 is a perfect game. It's a 10. It's flawless. They took the concept from an hour and a half to 2 hour game, a mini game basically, a short experience, and put it into a full length 6 hour game, and they added a completely different co-op, and this is good co-op. Unlike Fear 3 and Dead Space 3, the co-op in Portal 2 exists outside of the core campaign, and the puzzles are fun, and the humor is there, and oh my god. Portal 2 is a masterpiece. And I have it on my top 10 games of the last decade, of the 2010s. For good reason. Yeah, the original Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation 1 was 1998. Hey, Dark Hunter's here. Krog agrees, classic. Portal 2 is a perfect game. Bastard agrees too. I've beaten the campaign 3 times. One time was on stream. Right? Have I streamed? Have I not streamed Portal 2? Okay, I'm going to stream Portal 2 soon. I will install it. I played some co-op online on stream with J-Law, and we got to like the 3rd area and we got stuck somewhere and it was late and we never came back to it. I have not streamed the campaign of Portal 2. It's happening. I'll install it tonight. Dead Space Remake is amazing. I wish it would run on my computer. My kids have beaten Portal 2 and Portal 1 like 5 times each. That's fair. Why wouldn't you? Okay, Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 is an awesome game. It is an incredible game. It takes 10 hours to really get into it, though. And that's the only reason I'm dinging it. Red Dead Redemption 2 was an incredible experience that just took a long time to get into. But once you got into it, I'll be honest, not spoiling anything, but there's something that happens, a major plot beat that happens for a major character. And after it happened, I went from trying to critical path the story and just doing main missions because I was like, this game is good, but God, it's long. I just kind of want to stay on the critical path. Major beat happens in the story. And then I'm like, I want to do every single side mission in this game. Because it's such an incredible little twist. And it's something I didn't see coming. And it's so well done in the story. Rockstar. Home run. Red Dead Redemption 2 was one of my top games that year. I think it was number 2. I can't remember what I had in front of it. It's an amazing game. And then the post-game stuff is fantastic too. I'm telling you. That is like 80 hours that I do not regret. But it just took a while. The first couple of nights I played it, I was like, oh my God, it's still a tutorial. It feels like a tutorial for like 10 hours. You've got to have the time to put into that game. But if you do, it will reward you. All right, chat. You and I beat Portal 2 co-op when it came out. You're right, we did on 360. I just started playing it, but it's amazing. Yeah, Dead Space 1 is such a great game. Red Dead Redemption 2 at A is fair. Thank you. Resident Evil 2. Now, we're talking about the remake. Because that's the art for the remake. It's really good. It's really good. It's a B. It's the best remake they did. They did Resident Evil 3, which is fun and campy. And like 2, I love the graphics in it. And the play controls. And the story is fine and whatever. It's Resident Evil. I still need to get Resident Evil 4 remake. It's on my wish list. I'm going to buy it at some point and stream it. I probably should before Halloween's up, which is in 2 days. But Resident Evil 2 is a really damn good remake, and I think it belongs up here. The remakes of Resident Evil 1 are all over the place. If you're talking the original, though, on the PlayStation, Resident Evil 1 was unbelievable for its time. Resident Evil 2 was even better. The fact that it took 2 discs. Oh man, I remember buying that game and just being blown away at it. On the original PS. Legit scared me when I played it. It's those dogs breaking through the glass window, man. Oh, we've got Germany and the UK in chat right now. I love this. Good morning, y'all. Sonic Adventure 2. Am I going to really piss y'all off and put it down here and haven't played? Because I am. I worked for Sega for 7 years, almost 7.5. And I played some Sonic games. I had a Dreamcast. I had Sonic Adventure. I played it. I didn't beat it. I have since bought Sonic Adventure when they re-released it on the Xbox 360. Played a few hours of it. Yep, it's Sonic Adventure. I have not played Sonic Adventure 2. I know. String me up in the middle of the Times Square. Pull up. Draw and quarter me. Whatever. Oh, I know the music. Upside down and backwards. I've never played it. It's not a company man stance there. For real, it's not. Super duper got vibe. I'll tell you about that in a minute. It's kind of a long story of how I got in the game industry. We'll cover that here in a minute. Street Fighter 2. Oh my god. The first real fighting game I ever played, the first real fighting game addiction I ever had. Before Tekken, before Virtua Fighter, I used to play a lot of Street Fighter 2. A lot. On the Super Nintendo, Turbo, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and then Super Street Fighter 3. All the time. And then Tekken 1, 2, and 3 on PlayStation 1. Fantastic games. But Street Fighter 2 was such a leap over the first game. The first game wasn't even really that much of a fighting game. Street Fighter 2, I don't know that it can be undersold just how game-changing Street Fighter 2 was. It pretty much created the fighting game genre in terms of how tight the controls were, how different the variety of the different moves that different characters had were. That some of them weren't as balanced. Like M. Bison's little like flash fly thing is pretty cheap, and you could cheat people with that. There are some other characters that weren't as strong. But if you were so good the game that you could play a weaker character and still beat everybody else's ass, you were awesome. Oh my god, my college days of playing Street Fighter 2 Turbo. It has to be S tier. Even though I stopped playing fighting games like decades ago. I got Mortal Kombat. When's the last one I played? Mortal Kombat. It's been forever. And I'm not knocking those games. They're great. I just don't get the appeal, me personally, at this point in my life, to play Street Fighter games and to grind them, to play online. I'd rather play shooters. Having said that, Street Fighter 2 Turbo flipped the script on and basically made an entire industry. Genre defining. Bro, I can't remember this other arcade where you fight in the city. Silent Hill 2. Oh my god. Silent Hill was a really good game, but Silent Hill 2 was incredible. I almost think it should be in the A's though. There was definitely a couple of the puzzles I wasn't a big fan of. It's probably not fair for me to put this as an A, but it is somewhere in the A's. Is it one of the best survival horror games ever made? Probably. And when that remake comes out, I'm buying it day one. I'm not waiting. I waited on Resident Evil 4, which is weird because I actually like Resident Evil 4 as a game a little bit better than Silent Hill 2. But I have played Resident Evil 4 a couple of times since. I haven't touched Silent Hill 2 since I've beat it originally on the PS2. I have not played it since. I have it on Xbox. I have it on PS3, the remaster. Never played them since. It's almost like I've been waiting for the right time. And now that we're getting a full-on actual remaster from Konami, I hope they don't screw it up, man. I really do. I hope they can do like Capcom and make it as good as the Resident Evil remakes have been. My oldest loves Silent Hills. Yeah, Silent Hill 3, The Room was pretty good. 3, The Room, or 4? Which one was The Room? 2 and 3. 3 was good. Sims 2. I haven't played it. Sims, not my thing. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Leaps and bounds ahead of the original. A tier for me because Sonic games are wow. You either like them or you don't like them. They don't have as much of the universal appeal as something like Super Mario Brothers, but Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was a system seller, even more than the first Sonic, I think. And it needs to be an A. 4 is The Room. Okay. Which one's 3? Didn't 3 have another name? All the Genesis Sonic the Hedgehog games are great. Yeah, it's what they've been aspiring to be, as good as that ever since. StarCraft 2. Not an RTS guy. Haven't played it. Super Metroid. Wow. There were 2 Metroid games, right? And then Super Metroid came out, and it's awesome. I'm not a massive Metroid fan, though. So for me personally, it's kind of a B. But I know that's not going to be a popular take for some of y'all. But it is... Super Metroid's probably the best pure 2D Metroid game ever made. And it was a pretty big leap over the originals in terms of graphics. Holy crap. Well, Pyramid Head was in the second one as well, right? Star Wars Battlefront 2. Star Wars Battlefront was good. And we're not talking about the new versions. We're talking about the old ones. Battlefront 2, though. Oh, so good. God, we put tons of hours into this thing on Xbox Live. As a game, it was so fun. I can't go higher than B, though. I can't. I think it belongs here. But it was really fun, and I played a lot of it, and it probably should be an A, but I'm putting it as a B. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Oh my god. You're killing me with these sequels, man, because these are all amazing. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 on the Dreamcast had a level editor. I probably spent as many hours in the level editor in that than I did playing the game. And I played a lot of that game. Oh, the school level. Oh my god. Was it as big a leap forward as the first game? A little bit. But 3 is the first one that added manuals, right? And that was the biggest game changer of all of them. Being able to manual in and out of combos. super huge. I can't have it above Battlefront, but it's somewhere here. Played since Atari, but Sonic games are what really kickstarted my love of video games. I didn't know that. All right, 3 left. Tomb Raider 2, good game. Probably better pacing than the first one. Not a huge leap forward. I still have more of a warm spot in my heart for the first one. I'm gonna put it as a C. I know that's probably underrating it a bit, but I'm gonna put it as a C. Lastly, Wolfenstein 2. This sucks because these games make me motion sick. I can't play them. So I'm gonna put haven't played, even though I have played about 3 or 4 hours of it. I get motion sick. There's something with, and honestly, part of me wanted to put it as an F, but I know that's not fair because the games are really good. You can't turn off head bob. Now apparently there's a mod that you can install, but the fact that I have to install a mod to remove head bob, and that they haven't patched it or anything. I don't know if the new game, the last Wolfenstein, had it removed or not. And when you're playing stealth levels and you're crouched and you have to walk, your head's like this. It's shaking even more in the freaking crouched stealth levels. I literally can play for about an hour and I start to get pale and pukey. Most games don't do that to me. But if there is a free camera that's moving for extended periods of time that's not matching with my movements, this goes nuts. The inner ear, and I get motion sick. I know I'm not the only person with this game that's had that problem. I've seen threads on some message boards of people asking if there's a way to turn off head bob because they're getting motion sick in it. This isn't the only game that's done this to me. A Dark Sector was another one, a third person action game. Kind of a low budget action game. You have a glaive. I loved throwing that glaive around. I got about 2 hours into it and I almost threw up. So yeah, that's not gonna work. Wolfenstein is post World War II. Yeah, those Wolfenstein games are almost like alternative history. Okay. Last one on this list and then we'll be done is Uncharted 2, S tier. Uncharted 1 was a good game. Uncharted 2 was game changing. Uncharted 2 is what the new Tomb Raider reboots ripped off whole cloth. And I love those Tomb Raider games. I've played all of them. I've beat all of them. The original, the remake of Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. They're all really good games. I've beaten all 3 of them. I love them. I've beaten the first one twice. So good. And why are they so good? They looked at what they did, what Naughty Dog did with Uncharted 2 and said, we're doing that. There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing that. And they did, and those are great games. But Uncharted 2 is an Indiana Jones movie that you can play. Full stop. Uncharted 3, story's not as good as 2. And I would even argue that 4, story isn't as good as 2. 4 is better than 3. But the story in all of them is good to great. But Uncharted 2, start to finish, is pretty much a masterpiece. Dude, Mission Impossible, the new one, pretty much stole a section in a train from the start of this game. Come on. Uncharted Legacy. I didn't finish that one. I have it. I don't have the remastered one for PS5. I got about halfway through it, and there's something about the open world, hub world thing. Uncharted, is it Legacy? Yeah. The one where you play as Zoe. Yeah. It's the only one I haven't finished. It's such a side game, though. Like, it's not the core Uncharted. That at that point I wasn't feeling like, I need more Uncharted. So I never finished it. It's good, but it's really kind of more of the same and without the story. And the story pulls you through in the Uncharted games. Not that it pulls you through, but you don't need help pulling through. The gameplay is fantastic. But the story and the way they tell it, and with the cinematic, the cutscenes, and oh, yeah. Okay. I'm done. But here we are. I'm going to rank the S tier games, and this is where I'm going to have some trouble because they're all classic games. I'm going to put God of War towards the back. I'm going to put Assassin's Creed towards the back. Uncharted 2, Half-Life 2, Mass Effect 2. I almost feel dirty having Metal Gear Solid in here because it's so different from the previous two games, and it's such generationally ahead. From NES to PlayStation, you're skipping a couple of generations. I'm putting Portal 2 higher. I think Street Fighter 2 is where it belongs. For me personally, this is my personal opinion. I love all of these games. They're all 9.0s or higher. But I don't think that there's a game on this list that I've played more in my life than Half-Life 2. I think it's the best game on this list. It is iconic. It created a weapon that is not equaled to this day with the gravity gun. And you have to understand that Valve knew the bar was going to be so high. This is how great Half-Life 2 was. They never made a third game because they knew they were not going to be able to top it. There was nothing they could do to top it. They put out 2 episodes, episode 1, episode 2, that furthered the story, and they were going to do an episode 3 that was going to basically put the final stamp on the story. And that was going to be the best way to end it. I wish they would have done that. I wish you would have gotten that. But Half-Life 3, when? Half-Life 3 confirmed. All the memes about that. They're not going to make a Half-Life 3. I hate to tell you. I don't know this. No one's told me anything. I don't even know anyone at Valve. But I can tell you right now, they're not going to make a Half-Life 3 because it was so good. They can't top it, and they know they can't. They never made a Portal 3 because I think they said everything they need to say in Portal 2. But they made sequels to every other game on this list, on the S tier, and for that alone is why I have Half-Life 2 as my #1 video game sequel of all time that's on this list. So, if you agree or disagree with any of these, if you're watching this live on Twitch, put it in the chat. What's your favorite on this whole list? What's the one that you think is the best? Throw it in the chat right now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, add a comment. What's your favorite game out of this entire list? And if you want to tell me how wrong I am by having Link down in D or putting Mario 2 up in A, feel free to do that too. Love the feedback. It's all opinions, right? Nobody's right or wrong. But I appreciate you all watching. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please throw me a sub. I would appreciate that. Click the like button. Do all that stuff that people are supposed to say. Helps grow the channel. And I really am trying to grow this channel a bit more. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Or day. Whenever you're watching it, it doesn't matter. Thank you.